I am going to fulfill another request today. But this request didn't come in from a fan of the website or a fan of my YouTube channel. This one came from a friend who asked me to come up with a good recipe for one of his favorite dishes, duck in orange sauce. So I did some research, and if you're going to research a recipe that is quintessentially French, a good place to probably start is le cordon bleu. So that's what I'm going to base my recipe on today. So let's make duck in orange sauce. I have here a 5-pound duck. That's about 2.27 kilograms. And the first thing I need to do is start cleaning this up. There's the gizzards from the inside. That looks good. I don't need all this neck skin on there, so I'm going to trim that off. That looks clean. So my duck is now ready to season and then truss. I want to season inside with salt and pepper. Not much, just a pinch of salt. And then, because I don't want to stick my pepper mill in there, I'm going to grind some pepper into a bowl and then put that in there, just a little bit. Okay, that's enough. All right, and then what I've got here is pretty good. Actually, I got 2 of them there. I've got a sprig of fresh thyme. I'm going to push that into there. I need a bay leaf, and I have 2 small ones here, so I don't have any big bay leaves. I have here some kitchen twine. You can cut these wings, or at least most of the wings or part of the wings off. I like to leave them on. I think they add some stability to the duck, so I'm going to leave them on there. But I want to tie them to the duck to hold them in. The reason why you truss something like this, a duck or a chicken or a piece of beef, is you want to get it into a shape where it'll roast evenly. If you have these pieces sticking out, these can overcook while this is still trying to cook. All right, so that's one thing. I'm going to push the tail into the inside the duck. And then this next one's a little bit tricky with a duck, because there's not a lot of leg to work with here. But I want to cross the leg bones, and then I'm going to start wrapping around. Once I get one loop, there we go. Okay, that's good. Then I can tie this off. All right, and the reason why I want those crossed will be obvious in just a moment. Trim that string off. Now get one big long piece of string. And this, I go the long way around the duck. And I want to bring the string up between these crossed leg pieces, right in the middle, and then up the center of the breast. And then get ready to tie this off. And now watch what happens. See, when I pull that together, it pulls everything into a nice shape. Again, the idea of trying to get this into a rounded loaf, that'll make it easier to get everything roasted evenly. And that, to me, is a beautiful trussed duck. That's how I like to truss chickens or ducks. I have here about 2 tablespoons of room temperature butter. And I'm going to start smearing this all over the outside of the duck. Okay, set that aside. And now I want to sprinkle my duck with salt and pepper on the outside, like so. And then grind some pepper on there. Get my salt out of the way. right, my duck is seasoned. Next I want to put this into a roasting pan, and speaking of roasting, I am in the meantime heating my oven to 400 degrees Fahrenheit, which is about 200 degrees Celsius. I fitted my roasting pan with a rack because ducks, like geese, have a lot of fat, and I don't want it to cook down in its own fat. It's going to rend a lot of fat. And the way the instructions say, which I haven't tried before, is to cook it on one side at for 25 minutes, flip it over, roast it for another 25 minutes, and then finally finish by roasting it breast side up another 25 to 35 minutes until it's fully roasted. My duck has about 10 minutes more to go to finish its first stage of cooking. When I turn it over, I want to add some chopped vegetables to the bottom of the pan. These aren't going to be for eating. They're just to flavor the drippings. That's 1 carrot, 1 stalk of celery, a medium-sized onion. I'm just going to coarsely chop this. Get that in my bowl, and then finally, and I'm going to be curious to see what this is going to do as far as flavor, I have here 1 leek that I'm going to use just the white part of. One thing I'm always cautious about when it comes to leek is they're infamous for getting really muddy inside. And I'm not seeing any mud in there at all. Ooh, that smells good. All right, so now there are my vegetables ready to go into my pan, and I'm going to go search out a bottle of dry white wine. Okay, my duck has been in the oven now for 25 minutes. I want to turn this over. I've got a couple of turkey forks here that should make this pretty easy to do. Nice. And then I want to start putting my vegetables around the bottom of this pan. Okay. Well then, as I said, I want to put some wine in there, because I don't want to roast this pan too dry. Okay, now this is ready to go into the oven for another 25 minutes, and then we'll finish with the third stage of roasting. My timer just went off on my second phase of 25 minutes of roasting. So now I want to flip this breast side up, return this to the oven for another 25 to 35 minutes. I'll check it in the breast and the thigh to see that it's coming up to the temperature that I want. I want to bring this up to about 155, 160 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 68 to 71 Celsius. Then when I let this rest, the heat from the outside will migrate inward and bring it up by another 10 or so degrees, which should bring it to a safe temperature to eat. While my duck now is finishing roasting, I'm going to zest 3 oranges and a lemon. Once again, this is from my neighbor's tree. Her lemons is just starting to come ripe. I'm going to use a vegetable peeler here. I like this one opposed to another one I have because it gets very little of the white part, the pith, which is bitter. All right, so there's my lemon. Here's my orange. I'm going to stack some of these up. I have a lot here, and I may have more than I need. And then I want to just cut lengthwise down through these to cut these into thin strips. Julienne. I've heated some water to boiling here. I'm going to drop my zest in there. And then I want to boil these for about 5 minutes. Then I'm going to drain these in a strainer, rinse them well with cold water, let them drain, and then set these aside until I need them. Okay, my next step here is I want to squeeze the juice out of these oranges, but I don't have a nice juicer. I have this thing here, which is fine for small citrus like lemon and lime, but what do I do for something big like this? Well, I'm going to experiment today. What if I were to use a potato ricer? I think it's worth a try. I mean, what's the worst that could happen, right? I found that it works best if I cut the outer peel off, then put that in there. That very nicely gives me my orange juice. Beautiful. It works. Into a medium saucepan, which I have heating here, I want to put 1/3 of my wine vinegar and 3 tablespoons of sugar. And then I want to bring this to a boil and then start reducing that liquid until the sugar starts to caramelize, and that'll take a few minutes. Okay, this is starting now to turn into a syrup. You can see how it leaves the bottom clear when I scrape that a little bit. So I'm going to turn the heat off because that'll burn very quickly as that starts to get hot. As the sugar melts, as the water evaporates from the vinegar and the sugar melts, it gets hotter and hotter and hotter. That'll come up to 315 degrees, the hard crack stage, if you don't turn the heat off. Now, I'm going to let this cool a little bit while I strain the liquid from my roasting pan. I gave this an opportunity to cool a little bit. It's still syrupy. There is my orange juice going in. Now I'm going to bring the heat back up so I can bring that back up to a boil. And that's the drippings from my pan. I skimmed off as much of the fat as I could. There was a lot of fat in the bottom of that pan. I'm going to bring this to a boil, and then I'm going to reduce this down to at least half the volume, if not 1/3 the volume. I've reduced that down, as you can see, quite a bit. Now, what I've got here is some duck stock. I'm going to put about half of that in there right now. Bring this back up to a boil, and then reduce this down, and that'll give me a nice sauce for my duck. I'm turning my heat off under my reduction now. I've reduced that a lot. I'm not going to put all of my zest in there. I'm going to put some, and then I'm going to put in about 2 tablespoons of Cointreau. This is an orange flavored liqueur. Not a lot because it's got a strong flavor to it. I want to taste this for salt. It might need a little bit of salt. Pinch of salt in there. Stir that in. Now I'm ready to finish up my duck. Here now is my duck out of the oven. I checked that temperature. The thigh meat was at 158, close to 160 degrees, which is around 71 Celsius. Now I want to take these strings off. I'm going to put some of my sauce over the top, like that. And if you want to, you can lift up some of these julienne zest and put that over the top. And I would leave the rest of this juice in this gravy boat and put that on the table. Get my little ladle in there. And that's how I would put that on the table. Now I'm ready to cut this open and see what this tastes like. I just cut a few small pieces for myself to taste here. As far as what vegetable to do with this, There's a lot you can do. I think corn on the cob would be good. Green vegetables like green beans, broccoli. I'd like to have sauteed Brussels sprouts with this, or a nice rice pilaf would be good. But right now I just want to taste my duck with orange sauce. You can definitely taste that orange sauce, but the flavor of the duck comes through. That is really good. Okay, I'm going to go enjoy my lunch. For a printable PDF copy of this recipe with step-by-step photographs, visit the White Trash Cooking website and look on the home page or in the recipe archive.